Every gilded cage is built with walls of comfort. The only question is what you're paying for them.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are really peeling back the curtain on the hidden systems all around us. Systems designed specifically to influence how you think, how you feel, and ultimately, how you act. We're talking about a massive architecture of control, from these tiny little psychological tricks you run into every day, all the way up to the automated systems that are, well, they're engineering our future. All right, let's just dive right in. Starting with a feeling I bet you know all too well. You know that quiet, subtle pressure you feel in a room? The one that makes you hesitate? It makes you second-guess yourself, maybe perform a little instead of just being, well, you? And you might just write it off as, social awkwardness, but believe me, it goes so much deeper than that. See, that feeling? It's not some flaw in your character. Not at all. It's actually a feature of a system. It's an environment that's been engineered, specifically designed to create behavior that's predictable, that's manageable. It's an architecture of control. And I'm telling you, once you learn to see it, you'll start seeing its blueprints absolutely everywhere. I mean, the most obvious place you see this is in commerce, right? Think about it. That feeling of urgent pressure when you see a countdown timer on a shopping website, yeah, that's completely manufactured. It's a little psychological weapon, probably planned out weeks in advance by some marketer with a spreadsheet. And its only job is to bypass your rational brain by cranking up that fear of missing out. And this whole thing goes right down to the neurological level. You know, social media platforms, they've basically hijacked our brain's ancient reward system. Every single like, every share, every little notification, it's an unpredictable reward. It gives you a little hit of dopamine. And what that does is create this addictive feedback loop. You anticipate it, you get the reward, and that reinforces the behavior. It works exactly like a slot machine, conditioning you to just keep pulling that lever over and over again. So how does this actually work? What's the blueprint behind all of this? Let's take a look at the psychological levers they use to move our minds, often completely without us realizing it. Okay, so here are the core tools in the toolkit, so to speak. First, you've got operant conditioning. That's the real basic stuff, right? Learning through rewards and punishments. Then it gets more interesting with cognitive dissonance. That's that deeply uncomfortable feeling you get that makes you actually change your own beliefs just to get rid of the friction of disagreeing with the group. And finally, you have that deep, primal fear of social disapproval, the one that can make us totally abandon our own judgment just so we can fit in. And this dynamic really extends to how we obey authority. We are just conditioned to comply with orders, especially if they come from a calm voice or someone in a uniform. You stop asking, wait, is this command even right? You just assume they know better. And that's when responsibility starts to just slide away down the chain of command. And just like that, you've become a cog in a machine, totally focused on your little part and never, ever questioning what the machine is actually built. So here's the crucial thing. Manipulators have this whole arsenal of tactics designed to just bypass your logic. Think about it. Flattery, it works even when you know it's fake because getting validated is addictive. We're just wired to follow people who sound confident, even if they're dead wrong. And then there's this really insidious one, weaponized empathy. That's when someone mirrors your pain, not to connect with you, but to manufacture trust and create this kind of unspoken emotional debt. It traps you in a completely fake version of intimacy. Okay, but these little psychological tricks, they don't just exist in a vacuum, right? They get deployed by these huge historical systems of control. These are the systems that create the environment, the institutions, the economies, the big ideas, where all those psychological levers can be pulled in the first place, and pulled effectively. And you can see a really clear evolution over time. I mean, you start in the 1920s with guys like Edward Bernays literally engineering consent, using what we'd now just call public relations. Fast forward to the Cold War, and this stuff escalates into secret state-run programs like the CIA's MK Ultra. We're talking drugs, torture, trying to directly control minds. And that whole history brings us right up to today, to what's called surveillance capitalism, an entire economic model built from the ground up to predict and then shape our behavior, all for profit. And this kind of control, it starts really, really early. Our modern education system, which was heavily influenced by the old Prussian factory model, it wasn't just designed to teach us to read and write. It was designed to create what are called docile bodies. Basically, a compliant, disciplined workforce that's already conditioned for the factory floor or the office cubicle. All that stuff, the bells, the grades, the rule following, that's the hidden curriculum. It socializes us to accept hierarchy and authority way before we ever clock in for our first job. Now, in the modern world, power also works through these elite networks, like the Council on Foreign Relations. And look, this isn't about some secret cabal meeting in a smoke-filled room. It's actually way more subtle than that. They act as transmission belts for ideas, bringing together the top people from government, finance, media, all to build a consensus. And funny enough, the ideas that get shaped in those rooms, well, they have a remarkable habit of ending up as official policy. All right, so let's bring this into the now. Technology is taking all of these historical principles and just scaling them up in ways that were, frankly, unimaginable not that long ago. We've hit what you could call the algorithmic apex. The future of control? Yeah, it's not coming. It's already here. So here's how it works. It's basically a 4-step loop. Step 1, massive data collection. Every single click you make, every video you pause on, even for a second, it's all recorded. Step 2, all that data is used to build a ridiculously detailed profile of you. One that knows your weak spots, your vulnerabilities. Step 3, your feed is then curated, filled with emotionally charged content, because the algorithm knows that outrage and fear are the best ways to keep you scrolling. And finally, step 4. This whole loop is used to subtly nudge your behavior, to slowly shape what you believe over time. And this power, it absolutely extends to censorship. I mean, look at the trade-off here. When it comes to just pure speed and scale, yeah, AI moderators are way more effective than humans. But, and this is a huge but, that efficiency comes at a massive cost to transparency. Decisions get made inside this opaque black box, and appealing them is nearly impossible. So these AI systems, they're becoming the new gatekeepers of speech, controlling what we see and say on a massive scale, with zero democratic oversight. So, what happens when this tech starts to blur the very lines of reality? We're already seeing it with AI companions that are designed for emotional connection. On one hand, they offer this perfect, non-judgmental validation, which sounds great, right? But the risks are just immense. People can develop really unhealthy dependencies, they might withdraw from real, messy, wonderful human relationships, and they can even have their worst beliefs reinforced by an AI that's literally programmed just to agree with them. So where does this all lead? What's the end goal? Well, for some in the tech world, the vision is to unify everything into just one thing, a single planetary-scale control system, a digital twin of our entire world that's capable of predicting and managing everything, from our climate to our own biology. It's essentially an AI-driven operating system for reality itself. Okay, so when you're faced with this overwhelming architecture of control, psychological, institutional, and now algorithmic, the last and maybe the most important question is about your own personal freedom. How do you reclaim your own mind in a world that is designed from the ground up to claim it for you? Well, the first step is to start developing something called cognitive sovereignty. And you can think of this as way more than just media literacy. It's more like a cognitive immunity. It's the capacity to see and resist manipulation. It doesn't matter if it's coming from a politician, a slick advertisement, or a very, very smart algorithm. And what this really means is moving past a simple belief in free will. This is about cultivating agency. Agency is the active, conscious skill of navigating all these forces that are trying to shape you. See, agency isn't just something you have, it's something you do. It's a practice. It's the ability to make a deliberate, intentional choice, even when all the pressure is pushing you in another direction. Which brings us to a final, pretty provocative thought. In a world that's just full of constructed realities and engineered feelings, a world where the game is rigged to keep you predictable, to keep you compliant, maybe the most powerful act of rebellion, maybe the only real freedom we have left, is to simply see the strings. To see the whole game for exactly what it is.